course, another channel of mass mind control and manipulation and programming is the electric grid. And we're seeing more evidence of that sneaking around the horizon with the advent and installation, without federal mandate, of smart meters, which absolutely monitor everything you do in the house in terms of appliances, loads, kilowatts used, and so forth. They can also, I think, it's a two-way deal. They talk about them as being transmitters, but I'm pretty sure they can receive, and they certainly can receive to the extent that they can shut your power off remotely, that's for sure. We also think, I've thought for many years, that the electric grid is also another logical contender for a transmission device of harmonic, resonant EMF frequencies to control people right in their home. Every building, every apartment, every office block all have wires everywhere. You're inside those. You're inside a cage, a hamster cage, electrified hamster cage of wires, which can be charged up and made to disseminate almost anything. All right, now in the preface of the book, let me just read this here. The stock market forecast and future historical timeline is not intended as prophecy in the Bible sense or biblical sense of the word, but is based upon correlations between the books of Genesis, Daniel, Revelation, and reoccurring cycles evident in the implicit order of God's natural design. Now, you talked earlier about fractal. A lot of people have heard the word fractal, but they don't understand what fractal is. Define fractal for us, if you would, so people can get a grasp of that. You might even want to look it up online, those of you who don't know. I'm sure there must be hundreds of thousands of hits just on the word fractal, Fractal, fractal.
It comes from the Greek. It means, from the Greek fractus, it means fragment. It has really to do with a small subunit that's being reproduced over and over again on a larger scale to create a larger structure. So you can find that same fractal configuration in, say, I already mentioned the outline of certain types of leaves, a mountain range, clouds, aerial view of a shoreline. There's all kinds of relationships where that's evident. You can find it in time-dependent phenomena like the oscilloscope tracing of a heartbeat. It's something that just it shows up time and time again throughout science, the population growth curve, for example, of birth, maturation, and death. So that's all it's really describing is this natural order, and you can look at it through a microscope, or you can back up to deep space and take a look at it, and it looks exactly the same. And that's exactly what you're seeing in the financial markets, such as these stock indexes.
Right, very good. All right, so how has the book and how has your work been received in the past by people who are credible and honest, who work on the inside?
I don't really have a lot of feedback on it yet. This is really my first debut. The booklet really didn't circulate, but I'll know more as the weeks and the months proceed. The usual reception you get for information such as this is that since it hasn't occurred yet, people don't really feel the impact.
Right.
So you're predicting the future that only has value when it occurs, and of course it's too late.
It's kind of like remote viewing. Unless you can validate it, it doesn't mean anything.
Right, exactly. But when you have a track record that has accurately predicted 7 out of 7 events, and they were documented in major media before they occurred, then that should give that information more credibility. So I haven't really made any errors yet, and therefore the prediction that I'm making now has a very high probability of being accurate.
What do you see about war as a mechanism of all this? We've again seen what I mentioned earlier. We're about to see one apparently. Netanyahu is furious about the leak for Israeli plans to drag the United States in to a major war on Iran, a nation of 80 million people. And, of course, the UK right there, the Zionists, right in line saying, we're going to support the United States. Well, come on. It's a three-way deal. There's nobody supporting anybody. It's It's a collective effort. So the war on Iran will be another one. And let me get you to comment on that, how that might play into this, and I got another question.
Well, the one of the values that this has is that you can extrapolate from what the markets are actually projected to do to what should be going on politically. In other words, if we have a major crash coming up in 2012 and 2013, something obviously caused that, and there's only a few things that can actually do that. It could be environmental, for example. It could be political, as you mentioned, like a war. It could be just simply a banking collapse for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
But, war seems likely. What I didn't mention is that there's actually going to be two stock market crashes. This is the first one, 2012 and 2013.
Mm-hmm.
There will be a recovery in 2014 and 15, and then by 2017, it's going to be back up to 11,000 again. And then we're going to see the crash in 2017 and 2018.
All
down
orchestrated.
to about 250.
All orchestrated.
Mm-hmm. So in other words, we're going to have a recovery. Something's going to cause that recovery.
Mm-hmm.
I can only envision that everything got transferred over to a whole new cashless system.
Right.
And a whole change of guard. In other words, we have now a dissolution of nation states. We have a global empire to where everyone thinks it's good times again. Only now they're even more enslaved than they were before because they got chipped.
Exactly.
And that lasts until 2017. Then you see a really major fall, clear down to, like I said, about 250 on the Dow to 500 by 2019.
When I hear people say we might be chipped someday, I honestly look at them as already being chipped. Chipped by lifestyle, chipped by all the things I've mentioned before. They're in a very, very small range of motion, most people.
No question about that. And that's a consequence of the kind of things I talk about in the book that we've touched on, that their minds are truly not their own. They're not fully awake.
No.
They are zombified. And
unfortunately, that trend is not going to change.
No, it's not. And the really sad part about it is that they don't even care. It doesn't even matter to them when you point it out to them.
It's true.
They see no conflict of interest in that.
No, they don't. The younger people, of course, don't. We're talking 20 years for a generation. Mm-hmm. 2 generations now they don't have a. Take the first and the third. The middle is gone. The first is the youngest. They don't even speak the same language. They don't understand any of the values that the third holds or remembers. The second, well, they can pay lip service to it intellectually, some of them. We have such an incredible change going on at such a rapid rate. It just boggles the mind.
We have Hollywood, television, the doped food, doped water, doped air to thank for that.
Right. Exactly right. The idea of debit cards proliferating the cashless society, it's like the paperless society, already done. If any of you have gotten a traffic citation lately, don't print it out on a computer. They don't even have to write it in the ticket book anymore. They'll just take your data and go in and stand next to their vehicle and type it into a little terminal and spits out a ticket for you. A revenue stamp for them, and that's it. I mean, it is changing so fast. It's amazing. Russia and China already bought out, bribed players. They did nothing to stop the slaughter of Libya, neither one of them. They barely even talked about it. What will they do about Iran? If they've been given several trillion, who knows how many trillions each? Probably nothing. So it looks like the game is rigged now on a planetary basis.
Right, you do have this hierarchical cabal that at the top are really the same players, and I don't really think that nation-states exist as they may have at one time.
No.
And therefore you have this pretense of borders, but basically I don't really think there are any borders anymore.
No, there really aren't. And when somebody said, I've forgotten who, when a nation no longer deems or is able to, or desires to, enforce its borders, it is no longer a nation. It's that simple. And that's the idea. Homogenize everything. Look at the incredible...
Well, what's nice about this analysis is that it shows you what they're doing behind the scenes before they do it.